Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Roland Garros draw is out, and that means a reaction video to get through some of the talking points, especially the projected quarterfinals, as you can see on screen for the men's. And then we're going to go through the women's projected quarterfinals as well. Might touch a little bit upon who's in which half of the draw, and also a very, very early look at who's got the easier route to the final. This isn't going to be our preview and prediction video where you go through and do each and every single round, giving a predicted winner, and then ultimately doing our champion as well at the end of it. That will come in two separate videos, one for the ATP, one the WTA as well. So keep an eye out for those. This is just going to be a shorter reaction video. Before we get into it though, remember to that like button, do subscribe if you are new, and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. So the big news on the men's side is that Djokovic and Alcaraz are in the same half of the draw. That is really, really big news because we were thinking, well, could it be a Djokovic and Alcaraz potential final, or would they get drawn together? And the reason why they could have been in the same half and they are in the same half is because Djokovic is now seeded number 3 after Medvedev won Rome and rose to number 2 in the rankings. So Medvedev actually has a pretty good half, you could say, arguably, because he doesn't have Alcaraz or Djokovic. But actually, the other 3 are probably more solid than who Alcaraz and Djokovic have, in my opinion. So the projected quarterfinals for the men's is Alcaraz versus Tsitsipas, which I think actually would be a pretty good matchup. I know Alcaraz has had the better of the matchup in the best of 3 format. In best of 5, though, I feel like I've got a bit more confidence in Tsitsipas. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I do think it would be a tougher match and would be competitive. Djokovic has Rublev. Now, this is arguably for Djokovic. I think for Djokovic, Ruud or Rublev for me are tailor-made, and they're the best possible opponents he could get in the quarterfinals. That was my thinking before the draw. He's got Rublev, and I think he would be really happy with that because I think he's very happy to avoid Rune, especially, who's beaten him in the past. He has a 2-0 head-to-head record against him. Yes, in best of 3, but I still think his style isn't great. Medvedev is a grinder. He's played in really good form recently on clay as well. Their matches are always tough. Jannik Sinner as well has caused Djokovic problems in the past. And of course, Tsitsipas, made the final of Roland Garros 2 years ago in 2021. He was 2 sets to love up against Djokovic. So Rublev or Ruud for me. And the fact that he's got Rublev, in my opinion, means he's a massive favourite to make the semi-finals and play Alcaraz. And that could potentially be a final, in the sense that whoever wins that is going to go on to be the champion. I think that's what a lot of people will be thinking. The other half, you've got Rune and Ruud in a quarterfinal, which would be exciting because Ruud, of course, had a winning head-to-head against Rune 4-love going into their Rome semi-final. Rune was a set and a breakdown, recovered, got his own back against Ruud. In a best of 5, though, who comes out on top? Rune has had issues with cramping, etc. in the past. We'll see. But that would be a great matchup if we get it. And I actually think Sinner versus Medvedev is a great one. A lot of intrigue in that one for me. Sinner in the past has been a lot more comfortable on the clay than Medvedev, but given that Medvedev's just won Rome, it's impossible to count him out as one of the contenders. Does he even make the quarterfinals? He might not, but that could be the same for all of these guys. But I think for Medvedev, depending on who else he's got earlier on, which we'll look at in more depth, of course, in the ATP draw, could determine whether he makes that. But against Sinner, that's a really, really good quarterfinal, a tasty one to say the least. Then if we look at the women's, I think we have to look at, for me, this is crazy in the sense that we'll talk about who's in the same half of the draw. Well, for the women's, you've got Swiatek and Rybakina and Jabeur all in the same half. That, to me, is the toughest half because Sakkari, Pegula, Garcia, Sabalenka, still pretty tough, but I don't see Caroline Garcia making the quarterfinals, even. So I think it's going to be someone else against Sabalenka. Then you've got Sakkari. She could make the quarterfinals, but she hasn't been in the best of form. Pegula hasn't been in the best of form either. In all honesty, though, neither has Ons Jabeur, you could say. But I think the fact that you've got Swiatek and Rybakina in the same half is what I'm really looking at. Swiatek Goff projected quarterfinal. I'm not sure if Goff is even going to make a quarterfinal, in all honesty. So Swiatek might have quite an easy quarterfinal matchup potentially. Rybakina and Jabeur, if we get that, that would be a replay of the Wimbledon final from 2022. That would be a fantastic match. I think Jabeur loves the clay, and if she finds form and makes the quarterfinals, which you would then assume that she's found form, she's made it that far in the tournament, then I think we could get a real competitive match on our hands. Sakkari Pegula is always a really good watch. It's always exciting to watch as well. And Garcia Sabalenka, as I said, I don't think Caroline Garcia is going to make the quarterfinals. I don't think her game is particularly conducive to the clay. And I also think she's not been in particularly good form, and she's admitted it herself. Hopefully, she gets back to her best on the grass and the hard courts. But I wouldn't say I've written her off, but I just don't see her going particularly deep at Roland Garros. And for Sabalenka, she'll be looking, of course, to win back-to-back slams and try and get that #1 ranking. She's had a bit of time off, given that she lost in Rome very early, losing in the first round to Sofia Kenin. So this is a big opportunity for her as well to get her second slam and try and put down a marker of being the most dominant woman on tour. And Swiatek at the moment, of course, is the favorite, though, for the title. So that's some of, I guess some interesting things to go through in terms of projected quarterfinals. If you want to know people's projected paths, well, on the men's side, we've got some here, which I'll go through. So we've got Djokovic has Kovacevic first round, easy for me. Fucsovic second round, again, pretty straightforward. Rybakina third round. Now, you could say, well, Rybakina has beaten him in the past in a best of 3. Djokovic wasn't at his best. Could he beat him? I very much doubt it, in all honesty. Her catch in the 4th round, I don't even know if her catch will make the 4th round, in honesty. And if he was to, again, easy for me. Rublev quarterfinal, I think he's tailor-made for Djokovic. Again, as I said, even though Rublev's been in some good form on clay and has beaten Djokovic on clay, I just don't see Djokovic struggling with Rublev. Alcaraz is the big one. Semi-final of Alcaraz versus Djokovic. And then the final, he played Medvedev or Rune, most likely is what people are saying, of course. Although it could be Rude. It could be Sinner as well. For Alcaraz's road to the title, he's got qualify in the first round. Taro Daniel second round. Shapovalov round 3, potentially. Then Musetti or Nori round 4. Musetti or Nori. So I feel like the first 3 rounds pretty simple. Musetti Nori is not an easy one. If we get Alcaraz Musetti in round 4 at Roland Garros, that is going to be a really tough matchup for Carlos Alcaraz. I have to say, Tsitsipas is also very tough. Quarterfinal, semi-final of Djokovic, final Medvedev, Rune, Rude, or Sinner. I mean, he has a very tough route from round 4 onwards if the seeds win like we think they're going to, which doesn't always happen, of course. But if this projected route comes to fruition, then it's going to be a tough ask. Medvedev, he's got qualifier, then Quinton Hallis second round. He's been in good form, but should be beatable. Same with JJ Wolf. Round 4, though, Borna Coric is a potential banana skin. So for Medvedev as well, it's pretty tough from round 4 onwards. Quarterfinal of Jannik Sinner, semi-final Rude or Rune, and then final of Djokovic Alcaraz. That's pretty tough. For Holger Rune, I would say his is a bit easier. He's got Eubanks in the first round. Not easy, but should win that. Monfils or Baez. Baez could be difficult, but he should win that again. Kekmanovic round 3 should win that. Taylor Fritz potentially in round 4. That could be difficult, but in all honesty, since Monte Carlo, Taylor Fritz hasn't looked particularly good, so I would really heavily back Holger Rune for that. And then he's got a quarter-final potentially against Casper Ruud, as we discussed. I think he would be the favourite going into it. It's a tough one, though, of course. And then Medvedev Sinner semi-final, final of Djokovic or Alcaraz. And then for Jannik Sinner, I guess is probably someone who's gone a bit under the radar. He's got Muller first round, Heusler second round, Dimitrov. So, in honesty, from the third round onwards, it's not particularly easy. He should beat Dimitrov, but it could be difficult. Dimitrov third round. TFO round 4 is tough. If TFO plays how we know he can do on the clay, that's a tough one. Quarterfinal of Daniel Medvedev, semi-final Ruud or Rune, and final Djokovic or Alcaraz. So, yeah, look, not the easiest of draws. I would say Djokovic, in my opinion, probably has the easiest draw. I would say, in my opinion. I mean, that's just my thoughts on it, but he almost has made his own luck by winning so many slams, I guess. And it's actually funny because Alcaraz is number one. I think he's got a tougher route. And that's just the way the draw works sometimes. For Tsitsipas, he's got round one, Vesely, round two, Carabas Baena. Should get through both of those. Round three, Schwartzman. Again, Schwartzman hasn't been in good form. Round four, Felix Auger-Aliassime, who could easily not even be there, in all honesty. So that's very winnable. Though if Felix does make that stage of the slam, he could be dangerous. That could then be a really good matchup if Felix makes it. Quarterfinal of Alcaraz, very tough. Djokovic semi-final. Final of Medvedev, Rune. So I think from round four onwards, it can get a bit tricky, but quarterfinal onwards, especially for Tsitsipas. And for Rublev, he's got Zhev round one, Mute round two, Shelton round three. That shouldn't be an issue, in honesty. Round four, though, is where I think it could get tricky. Khachanov has made back-to-back semi-finals in the last two Grand Slams. If he was to play Rublev, I think that's almost a 50-50 in my opinion. I think it's that close. So round four onwards, it gets difficult. Quarterfinal of Djokovic is the worst draw he personally could get, in my opinion. Semi-final of Alcaraz, final of Medvedev or Rune. I mean, yeah, not easy whatsoever, in my opinion, for a lot of these guys. And I think it is pretty evenly contested on this surface. This is going to be a really, really good tournament. On the women's side, I do feel like Rybakina, Sabalenka, Swiatek are the bigger favourites, of course. I think Swiatek, even with the draw coming out, she's still the favourite. I think Djokovic is even more of a favourite with the draw coming out. That's my initial thoughts on the draw. It hasn't really changed my thoughts on who I think are the favourites going into it. But I'll do my more in-depth analysis and, of course, breakdown for ATP and WTA draw preview and prediction videos when I go through my bracket and pick my individual winners and then eventually get my champion. And could be completely different to what I'm saying is going to be the case. But thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you on the next video. And of course, keep an eye out for our Roland Garros preview. Roland Garros preview for the ATP and WTA side, and also all our content coming out for this Red Dirt Grand Slam, which I'm really, really looking forward to. Thanks very much, guys. See you later.